Under a heavy blanket of darkness, the abandoned police station looms like a forgotten relic. Its once proud walls, now cracked and weathered, seem to whisper secrets into the stillness of the night. A single ray of moonlight slices through the shattered window panes, casting twisted shadows along the cold, empty halls. Suddenly, from deep within, a radio crackles to life, spewing static like a ghost trying to speak. Then, just for a moment, a voice. But not one anyone recognizes. Welcome to the unsettling crossroads of law, order, and the unexplained, where the rigid rules of reality crumble and the paranormal reigns untamed. Tonight, we delve into the disturbing dispatches from a haunted police station, a place where the badge offers no protection and logic is left to wither in the frigid grip of fear. These aren't just your average ghost stories. They are testimonies, chilling accounts that blur the fine line between fact and fiction, leaving all who hear them to question, what if it's true? Prepare yourself for a descent into the unknown, where history, tragedy, and the supernatural collide in ways no officer could ever have prepared for. Can you hear it, that faint echo, the whisper of something watching, waiting, and perhaps warning? Hold on tight, because what awaits may not just haunt the station, but the deepest corners of your mind. Now turning to the origins of this haunted police station. The story begins more than a century ago, on a plot of land that was anything but ordinary. Built during an era when the town was still finding its identity, the station was erected on a site with a history steeped in blood and sorrow. Long before its foundation was laid, this ground served as a battlefield where countless lives were lost, their final cries echoing into the soil. Local legends even whisper of an ancient burial ground hidden beneath the surface, with remains disturbed during construction, a discovery dismissed at the time as superstition or rumor. From the moment the first brick was placed, oddities plagued the process. Workers frequently reported inexplicable accidents, tools vanishing only to reappear in impossible places, strange chills coursing through their bodies even on the warmest days, and shadows darting just out of sight. One night, a foreman allegedly heard a voice calling his name from an empty, unfinished corridor. He left the project the very next day, refusing to ever return. Upon completion, the station stood as a cornerstone of the community, yet an uneasy air seemed to cling to it. The first documented sign of something otherworldly occurred not long after the station began operations. Officers patrolling the halls late at night spoke of faint footsteps trailing behind them, only to turn and find the space utterly empty. Lights flickered without cause, and objects moved on their own, as if unseen hands were at play. Some even claimed to hear soft weeping in the dead of night, though no source was ever found. Residents grew wary, and whispers began to circulate, branding the new police station as a place where the past refused to rest. It was as if the ground itself had absorbed the anguish and unrest of its history, feeding the energy that now seemed to pulse through the very walls. As the years passed and the stories multiplied, it became clear that this was no ordinary building. It was a junction where reality and the supernatural entwined, leaving those who entered its doors to forever wonder what forces truly resided within. Now turning to the first recorded paranormal incident, the events that unfolded set the tone for the station's eerie reputation. It began on a quiet autumn night, decades ago, when Officer Raymond, dedicated, disciplined, and known for his meticulous patrols, embarked on his routine rounds. He checked in at regular intervals, his voice calm and composed over the radio. However, as the clock edged closer to midnight, his updates abruptly stopped. Attempts to reach him were met with nothing but static. Concerned, his colleagues retraced his patrol route, scouring every street and alley he was assigned to cover. Their flashlights cut through the darkness, but there was no sign of him. His patrol car stood abandoned near an empty intersection, the driver's side door wide open, the radio still crackling faintly. On the ground nearby, his flashlight lay shattered, as if it had been dropped mid-stride. What sent shivers down their spines was the faint sound of footsteps, rhythmic and deliberate, echoing from the shadows. But no one was there. The search continued until dawn, but Officer Raymond was never seen again. The official report listed his disappearance as unexplained, yet whispers circulated among the staff. Some claimed the spot where he vanished carried a chilling atmosphere, as if the air itself turned heavier. Others reported hearing his faint voice on the radio deep into the night, calling for backup from a location that didn't exist. This incident struck fear into the hearts of the officers, with some refusing to take patrols near that intersection. It wasn't long before the tale of Officer Raymond's disappearance etched itself into local lore, growing with each retelling and leaving the station's staff to wonder whether his spirit still roamed those halls. This marked the beginning of a series of inexplicable events, hinting that whatever haunted the station was far from finished. Now turning to the phantom in the holding cell, the stories surrounding this particular corner of the station are some of the most unnerving. Detainees who have spent even a short time in these cells often recount similar chilling experiences. Some claim to have seen a shadowy figure pacing back and forth, its form barely distinguishable, yet undeniably there, despite the cell being completely empty. Officers report hearing faint, disembodied whispers during late shifts, words too muffled to understand but persistent enough to send chills down their spines. The air in the holding cell corridor is said to suddenly drop in temperature without warning, so sharply that it feels as though unseen eyes are watching. There are even accounts of the bars rattling violently, echoing through the station, as if an unseen hand is gripping them in frustration or desperation. One particularly unsettling tale comes from an officer on duty. While conducting a routine check, he noticed an empty cell door slightly ajar, which was strange considering they were all locked earlier in the shift. As he stepped closer to investigate, a cold gust of air brushed past him, and he distinctly heard the words, "Let me out," in a hoarse, guttural voice. Startled, he retreated, only to find the door had somehow locked itself again. Rumors suggest that the phantom could be the restless spirit of a former inmate who met a tragic end while confined within those walls, though records of such incidents are either missing or strangely incomplete. The holding cells have since developed a reputation that causes unease among both detainees and officers alike. Many officers find excuses to delay shifts that would take them near the cells after dark, while detainees often refuse to sleep, too terrified of what they might see or hear if they close their eyes. The presence in the holding cell seems less like a passive echo from the past and more like an active force, angry and determined to make itself known. It is a haunting that casts a darker shadow over the already unsettling atmosphere of the station, leaving everyone to wonder if this entity seeks release, revenge, or simply recognition of its existence. This lingering specter in the cells is just one of many unexplained phenomena that have taken root here, and it reminds all who pass through those halls that the past is never fully at rest. Moving forward, we come to what might be the most unsettling element of this station's eerie legacy: the dreaded dispatches. On certain nights, when the station is steeped in an almost suffocating silence, dispatchers have reported receiving the unthinkable calls from officers who are no longer among the living. These chilling transmissions are not simply urban legend. They are well-documented occurrences that continue to baffle and terrify those who man the radios. One such account comes from a seasoned dispatcher who had worked countless overnight shifts. It was just past 3 in the morning when an officer's voice crackled through the frequency, urgently requesting backup at a nearby intersection. The dispatcher recognized the voice immediately. It belonged to Officer Daniels, a respected member of the force. Concerned, she radioed other patrols for immediate assistance. But what she didn't know at that moment was that Officer Daniels had died in the line of duty more than 5 years prior. When she finally realized the horrifying truth, she could hardly breathe. Trembling, she checked the station log to ensure there had been no mistake. Of course, there was no one assigned to that call sign, and the intersection in question was completely deserted when officers arrived. Another dispatcher recounts a similarly spine-tingling event. Late one evening, the radio crackled to life with a static-filled message, barely audible. The voice muttered coordinates to an accident scene, its tone subdued but urgent. The staff scrambled to verify the call, only to discover that the coordinates led to an abandoned stretch of road where no accident had ever been reported. This particular instance grew even more ominous when a closer review of the voice identified it as belonging to a former officer who had perished under suspicious circumstances decades earlier. Attempts to trace the origins of these calls have led to dead ends, both figuratively and, some might argue, quite literally. Technicians who have studied the recordings have found no logical anomalies, no interference, no equipment malfunctions, no signs of tampering. Experts in paranormal phenomena suggest that these voices might be echoes from the other side, trapped in a frequency that blurs the boundaries between the living and the dead. Whether these calls are cries for help, desperate attempts to complete unfinished business, or some inexplicable residual energy, one thing is certain: they leave dispatchers and officers alike questioning the very nature of reality. These ghostly communications add yet another layer to the station's chilling reputation, a haunting reminder that even in death, some voices refuse to be silenced. And as unsettling as these dispatches are, they are but one piece of a far larger puzzle, one that grows darker with every unexplained knock on the door of reason. Now turning to the shadowy corners of the evidence room, we uncover yet another layer of this station's unsettling legacy. Evidence rooms are, by their very nature, repositories of chaos and crime, places where objects tied to human suffering are stored away, seemingly forgotten. But in this station, the evidence room holds more than just the remnants of unsolved cases. It seems to hum with its own unearthly energy. Officers have long whispered about items that appear to shift positions on their own, shelves that inexplicably empty and then refill moments later, and the faint but distinct sound of footsteps pacing behind locked doors when no one is inside. But perhaps the most disturbing account involves a particular piece of evidence tied to a decades-old murder case. It was a weathered dagger, the murder weapon in a crime so heinous that its details are still whispered with dread. The blade, though harmlessly stored in its sealed container, has been a source of deep discomfort for those tasked with handling it. One officer reported that every time he approached the section where the dagger was kept, the lights would flicker violently, plunging the room into brief, suffocating darkness. Another officer claimed to have felt an intense cold radiating from the evidence box, a cold so biting it left his fingers numb for hours. The most unnerving incident, however, came one night when an officer entered the evidence room to retrieve the dagger for a routine case review. The room was securely locked, with no sign of tampering, yet the box containing the dagger was found open, its lid placed neatly beside it, and the dagger lying in the center of the floor, gleaming faintly as though freshly polished. Unable to make sense of what he was witnessing, the officer fled the room, leaving the dagger untouched. Since then, many have speculated that the weapon might carry an energy, perhaps something left behind by its original owner or even its victims. Paranormal investigators who have studied the station suggest that objects like these can act as conduits, amplifying the existing supernatural energy and tethering restless spirits to the physical world. For the officers who must venture into the evidence room alone, every creak of a shelf and every unexplained whisper is a stark reminder of the room's eerie truths. Yet the most chilling realization for those who dare to enter is this: the evidence room does not simply store items, it guards secrets, some of which seem desperate to break free. And as unnerving as these occurrences are, the haunting of this station does not end here. The dark corridors have still more stories to tell, each more perplexing than the last. Moving forward, we delve into a pattern of unresolved cases that casts a long and chilling shadow over this haunted station. These are not ordinary cold cases, forgotten due to a lack of evidence or leads. Instead, they seem to defy explanation, as if some unseen force is determined to keep the truth shrouded in darkness. Among the most baffling of these is the case of an officer investigating a series of ritualistic crimes that terrified the local community years ago. As the officer pieced together clues one by one, strange occurrences began to disrupt the investigation. Files would go missing from locked desks, only to reappear days later in completely unrelated locations. Crucial evidence, like photographs and recordings, would become corrupted, with static and distortion obscuring critical details. On the night the officer believed he was closing in on a breakthrough, he reported hearing whispers, low, unintelligible murmurs, as he worked late in an empty office. He spoke of shadows shifting in the corners of his vision and the unshakable sensation of being watched. Hours later, the case went cold. Witnesses who had been cooperative suddenly withdrew their statements, and physical evidence vanished without a trace. The officer, once confident in solving the mystery, grew visibly shaken and eventually requested a transfer, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. Such strange patterns are not unique to this case. Over the years, other officers have recounted similar experiences. Some described finding case files with pages torn or ink smeared, as though an invisible hand sought to erase critical information. Others spoke of hearing faint knocking sounds or seeing figures disappear through walls, always near the scenes of active investigations. These incidents have sparked unsettling theories. Could the spirits bound to this station be intent on hiding their own sins or protecting secrets better left buried? Or is it possible that the station itself, steeped in decades of tragedy and turmoil, acts as a kind of energy trap, ensnaring both the living and the dead within its walls. The eerie coincidences and unexplained disruptions leave many wondering if justice can ever truly prevail in a place where the natural and supernatural collide so violently. As we attempt to untangle these strange tales, it becomes increasingly clear that the line between the living and the dead is not just blurred in this station. It is actively crossed, and the consequences are as unsettling as they are profound. Yet, even in the face of such mysteries, the stories of this station are far from over. There is more to uncover, and the next chapter beckons, demanding answers to questions that may never be fully resolved. Now turning to a glimmer of hope in this chilling tale, the stories of a ghostly guardian emerge, offering a stark contrast to the station's darker hauntings. Among the many eerie accounts, some officers speak not of fear, but of gratitude, crediting their survival in dangerous situations to an unseen force. One particularly compelling account comes from an officer who was nearly struck by a collapsing beam during a warehouse raid. Moments before the beam crashed down, he felt a firm, inexplicable hand pull him backward, saving his life. When he turned around, expecting to see a colleague, there was no one there. In another instance, a patrol officer reported hearing a soft, insistent whisper, urging him to move just before a car sped through a red light at an intersection where he had been standing moments earlier. These inexplicable interventions have been attributed to what many now call the ghostly guardian, a presence that seems intent on protecting those who serve within the station's walls. Speculation about this benevolent spirit often points to the possibility that it could be the ghost of a fallen officer, perhaps one who lost their life in the line of duty and remains tied to the station by an unbreakable sense of loyalty. Could this spirit be watching over their comrades, ensuring that they are spared the fate they themselves endured? Or is this presence something greater, a manifestation of the collective energy of officers past, unified in their desire to protect? These stories bring a complex dimension to the station's haunting, as they juxtapose the sinister encounters with a spectral force that seems to care. While the malevolent hauntings often evoke dread, the ghostly guardian offers a thread of reassurance, albeit one wrapped in layers of mystery. Yet, even this comforting presence raises questions about the nature of the station's paranormal activity. Is the guardian's intervention purely altruistic, or does it serve a purpose yet to be understood? This unpredictable interplay between light and darkness within the station deepens its mystique, leaving us to wonder what other secrets may still be hidden within its walls as the story continues to unfold. Now turning to one of the most unnerving corners of the station, the spotlight falls on the interrogation room, a place where the line between the living and the otherworldly becomes dangerously thin. This room, designed to extract truth from suspects, has instead become a hub of unexplained paranormal activity. Officers recount events that defy logic, like chairs scraping across the floor, as if moved by invisible hands, or documents being tossed violently from the table without any apparent cause. The flickering of lights has become so frequent during interrogations that some have started to view it as a grim, uninvited participant in the process. These occurrences are more than mere technical glitches. They seem reactive, almost as if the room itself harbors a growing resentment toward its purpose. One officer shared an incident where the temperature dropped so suddenly during a heated interrogation that both he and the suspect could see their breath in the air despite the room's closed environment. Another account tells of a suspect who, mid-confession, bolted from the room in terror, claiming to have seen a shadowy figure standing directly behind the officer conducting the questioning. These experiences do not end when the interrogations are over. Officers have reported footsteps echoing from the empty room, the faint sound of murmured words, and an oppressive feeling of being watched, even during routine checks. Could these events be a manifestation of spirits angered by the confrontational atmosphere of the room? Or perhaps they are tied to darker stories buried in the history of those who once sat in that chair, facing judgment for acts that may never find true resolution. Over time, the psychological toll has grown palpable. Some officers now admit to dreading assignments that involve the interrogation room, feeling as though they are stepping into a space that actively pushes back against their presence. As we continue to unpack the mysteries of this haunted station, the question lingers: is the energy in the interrogation room residual, a replay of past traumas, or is it a deliberate and chilling response from entities unwilling to rest? Whatever the answer, this room remains a place where courage meets the unknown, and the boundaries of reality are tested with every flickering light and falling document. Moving forward, the tales from this eerie location are just one of many layers in this chilling labyrinth of the unexplained, hinting that the station's secrets may run even deeper. As the next phase of the journey unfolds, we delve into the unsettling accounts of spectral figures who seem to appear not to harm but to warn. These ghostly apparitions, often described as shadowy outlines or faint, glowing forms, have been spotted by officers in moments of impending danger. One such account recalls the chilling presence of a figure motioning towards an exit just minutes before a fire broke out in a nearby room. The officer, initially frozen with fear, instinctively followed the silent gesture, narrowly escaping what could have been a life-threatening situation. Another spine-tingling tale tells of an officer conducting routine patrols who noticed an apparition standing near a door to the evidence room. Moments after the figure vanished, the door gave way, crashing with enough force to inflict serious harm had the officer been any closer. These warnings, though deeply unsettling, have left those who witnessed them in a strange mix of fear and gratitude. Could it be that these entities are bound by a sense of duty to protect those within the station's walls, or is their purpose far more enigmatic? Some officers view these moments as a chilling gift, a reminder that even amidst the station's malevolent energy, there may be forces striving to guide and safeguard. However, not all warnings have been heeded. There are whispers of apparitions attempting to communicate danger, only to be ignored or misunderstood, resulting in catastrophic outcomes. The true nature of these apparitions remains a mystery. Are they the spirits of fallen officers, forever watching over their comrades, or are they remnants of an unknown force that exists beyond our understanding? While their intentions seem benevolent, their appearances add yet another layer of complexity to the station's already harrowing reputation. Moving forward, these spectral warnings serve as a haunting reminder that in this station, even salvation itself may be cloaked in the eerie shroud of the unexplained. Moving forward, we delve into the theories that aim to unravel the unsettling phenomena within the haunted police station. Could it all be the product of an overactive imagination, pushed to its limits by the immense stress of police work? Many skeptics suggest that the combination of long hours, high-pressure situations, and the natural eeriness of working in an isolated environment late at night might create the perfect storm for seeing or hearing things that are not really there. Others believe there might be scientific explanations at play. Some point to electromagnetic fields, which have been scientifically proven to affect the human brain, potentially causing sensations of unease or even hallucinations. Then there is infrasound, low-frequency sound waves that the human ear cannot consciously detect, but can create feelings of dread or discomfort. Could these forces be responsible for the spine-chilling encounters reported over the years? On the other hand, believers in the paranormal argue that the station itself is a liminal space, a crossroads between our world and the unknown. This theory suggests that locations like prisons, hospitals, and yes, police stations are natural magnets for paranormal activity because of the emotional energy they host: fear, desperation, and sometimes even death. Another perspective suggests that the station acts as a kind of energy reservoir, soaked with the residual trauma and intense emotions tied to the incidents it has witnessed over decades. Paranormal experts often cite these residual energies as a potential source of hauntings, where past events leave an imprint so strong that they replay themselves in specific locations. Some believers even propose that the spirits within the station might be actively drawn to unresolved cases, perhaps seeking justice or closure. While skeptics dismiss these ideas as mere superstition, believers argue that the consistency and intensity of the experiences cannot be so easily explained away. Regardless of which side you find yourself on, one thing is clear: the stories surrounding this station challenge our understanding of reality. Are these hauntings simply the byproduct of environmental factors and human psychology, or do they point towards something far more mysterious, something that science has yet to fully understand? The tension between these explanations leaves us with more questions than answers, inviting each of us to consider where we stand on the spectrum of belief. And with that, we prepare to step back into the chilling realm of unexplained encounters tied to this station, where every object, every sound, and every shadow seems to carry with it an air of the unknown. With the next phase of the journey in sight, we reach the conclusion of our unsettling exploration into the tales of the haunted police station. These stories have painted a picture of a place where the ordinary meets the extraordinary, where the lines between logic and the supernatural blur. Is this station merely a canvas for the mind to project its fears, fueled by stress, science, or suggestion? Or is it truly a gateway to something beyond our understanding, a true repository of unresolved energies and restless spirits? The accounts we have uncovered challenge us to question what we know, to weigh the evidence of skeptics alongside the experiences of believers. Where do you find yourself standing after all of this, leaning toward logical explanations or opening the door to the unknown? Let us know your thoughts and even your own experiences in the comments below. And as you reflect on these chilling tales, one question lingers: could there be places around us, even those meant for safety and order like police stations, that host secrets we are not yet prepared to face? Perhaps the next time you pass a police station late at night, you might feel the urge to look twice. Who knows? You could just catch a fleeting shadow, a whisper of something that defies explanation. Stay curious, stay brave, and stay tuned for more stories that invite you to question the boundaries of reality.